Good morning. Thank you for being here. I'm attorney Larry Disparti, and we are here today to announce a federal discrimination lawsuit against Thomas Dart and Cook County for age discrimination committed against one of the finest and most distinguished law enforcement officers in Cook County, Mr. Ronald Gaines. Mr. Gaines began his law enforcement career in the 1970s, and in 2004, he had the opportunity to walk away and retire as a sergeant in good standing with the Chicago Police Department. Instead, Mr. Gaines continued to work for the people of Cook County, taking a position with the Cook County Sheriff's Office. Then, in March of this year, Mr. Gaines was terminated at the age of 69 years old with no reason, and no explanation was given to him from Sheriff Dart's office. Mr. Gaines contacted my office, Disparti Law Group, and we immediately filed a federal lawsuit to let him know and to let all the hard-working people of Cook County know that we have his back and that we will take on a fight against workplace discrimination wherever we see it. Now I'd like to introduce our lead labor and employment lawyer, Casper, and he will discuss the claims. Cass?
Thank you, Larry. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Ronald Gaines is nothing short of an icon at the Cook County Sheriff's Office. As Mr. Disparti just articulated, he began his law enforcement career with the Chicago Police Department in 1976. He worked honorably in the Chicago Police Department until his retirement as a sergeant in 2004, whereafter he began working for the Cook County Sheriff's Office. Mr. Gaines so honorably worked at the Chicago Police Department for his retirement that his picture and his name is even included on the Family Tradition Memorial at the Chicago Police Department headquarters at 3510 South Michigan Avenue. This is a distinguished, decorated career law enforcement officer. After beginning his career at the Cook County Sheriff's Office in 2004, he held various positions in the Court Services Department, at the Cook County Sheriff's Merit Board, and finally, in about 2018, he was moved to an assistant chief position and assigned to the electronic monitoring unit. Thereafter, he held the assistant chief position in that unit without issue. He worked honorably, came to work every day, was not an attendance issue, had no disciplinary issues, and was loved by the men and women that he supervised in blue. In about August 2019, Mr. Gaines was in the office of his immediate supervisor, Executive Director Carmen Ruffin. During this meeting, the Executive Director Ruffin made derogatory comments about our client, Ronald Gaines' age. He was 69 years old at the time. She stated, not verbatim, but in general, that he was too old to continue working with the Cook County Sheriff's Office, that he had a pension with the Chicago Police Department. Why didn't he just retire and go collect his pension at the Chicago Police Department? And further, Executive Director Ruffin in that meeting told our client, Mr. Gaines, that she wanted to move up younger officers into higher positions in the electronic monitoring unit. Gaines was shocked about the statements that he heard from Ruffin in that meeting. Little did he know that while he was subsequently off on injured on duty status, recovering from an on-the-job injury to his shoulder, the Sheriff's Internal Affairs Division would appear at his personal residence on March 12, 2021, and notify him that they were there to collect his credentials and that he was terminated from the Cook County Sheriff's Office effective immediately. OPR did not give Mr. Gaines a reason for his termination on March 12th of this year. He had no knowledge of the reason for his termination. Nobody from the Sheriff's Office had bothered to give him advance notice of the subject matter or the reasons why he was being terminated. OPR collected his credentials and left, leaving Mr. Gaines distraught, upset, confused, and uncertain. Seeking to uncover the reasons why he was terminated, Mr. Gaines wrote various letters, emails, text messages to officials in the Cook County Sheriff's Office, including OPR investigators, people in his chain of command, and including to Sheriff Dart himself. On March 17th, 2021, Ronald Gaines wrote a letter to Mr. Dart, and I quote, "I am submitting this request after being notified on March 12, 2021, that I have been terminated as Assistant Chief assigned to the Electronic Monitoring Unit. As of this writing, I have not received any explanation of my termination from anyone. I respectfully seek a meeting with you." Mr. Gaines' letter to Mr. Dart seeking an explanation for the termination of his illustrious law enforcement career went unanswered by Sheriff Dart. It was only by submitting a Freedom of Information Act request that our client, Ronald Gaines, managed to learn that 1 week after Executive Director Carmen Ruff made the derogatory comments about his age in her office, she submitted a complaint register to Sheriff's Internal Affairs against him, accusing him of not wearing a body-worn camera on duty and accusing him of not being accountable to work on August 13th between the hours of 7:45 and 1:20 p.m. Unfortunately for Ms. Ruffin, Mr. Gaines was at work. He clocked in at 7:45 on August 13th, 2019. He worked throughout the day, and he came back to the office at 1:20. He works in patrol as Assistant Chief. He's out there in the field with his men, and he was on duty and working throughout his shift. Further, as a supervisory member of the electronic monitoring staff, at the time, he was not issued a body-worn camera. Nonetheless, on the basis of Ms. Ruffin's false, unsubstantiated complaint register, Mr. Gaines was terminated, again without reason, on August 12th of this year. Digging into his claims, Disparti Law Group, we managed to uncover that there is a pattern of age discrimination in the electronic monitoring unit of the Cook County Sheriff's Office. In the complaint, we've alleged the names of at least 9 other higher-ranking individuals, and as well as investigators in the electronic monitoring unit, all of whom are over 50, over 60, and in Mr. Gaines's case, as old as 69 years old. These individuals were forced out of the unit, harassed by Ms. Ruffin in order to have to leave the unit. And based on that pattern, as well as the direct statements Ms. Ruffin made referring to Mr. Gaines's age, we've brought this 3-count complaint for age discrimination against the Sheriff's Office. We bring a claim for violation of the Age Discrimination in Employment Act. We bring a claim for violation of the Illinois Human Rights Act on grounds of age discrimination. And we bring a claim for a constitutional violation, for a violation of the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, which also protects people like Mr. Gaines from age discrimination working in the public sector. But it doesn't end there. We also managed to uncover a copy of the OPR summary report. That summary report was compiled by OPR by the Sheriff's Internal Affairs Division based upon Ms. Ruffin's complaint register. It bears noting that not one time did the Office of Professional Review interview Mr. Gaines about his take on the allegations. In fact, he didn't even know that there was an investigation going on until the date he was fired this year. It bears further noting that in the summary report of the OPR investigative file, the Office of Professional Review investigators wrote, and I quote, "The Office of Professional Review also notes that Gaines was due to retire in November of 2019. That statement has no bearing, no relevance, and nothing to do with the allegations in the OPR summary report. And together with the pattern evidence we just discussed, together with the direct statements made by Ms. Ruffin in her office meeting with Mr. Gaines in August 2019, together with that statement, we feel that justice is going to be served in this case and that Mr. Gaines will be vindicated of the age discrimination that he suffered as a result of this injustice and wrong actions by the Cook County Sheriff's Office." And with that, I'd like to ask my client just to state a few words briefly. Mr. Gaines, I'll give you the podium, but I would like to ask you, sir, you have nearly 50 years in law enforcement. You're an icon at the Cook County Sheriff's Department, and at the Chicago Police Department. How do you feel, sir, being treated this way by Cook County Sheriff Thomas J. Dart?
Thank you very much for taking my case, first of all, and to the law firm. As far as answering that, it was a slap in the face. I can't explain how that affected my family, and when you're told after giving years of service that you will be without medical coverage for a sick wife that I had, or for myself, within a matter of weeks, not knowing the reasoning behind it. And then to go and have to file a Freedom of Information Act complaint just to find out what the reasoning was. These type of actions needs to stop and be addressed. And after being devastated the way this is done, because it's true I have 50 years in law enforcement. I also have 2 sons who were with the Cook County Sheriff Department. I have 3 family members, a son, a daughter, and a daughter-in-law who are still with Chicago Police Department. So me being the head of my family and to be looked upon as far as being terminated for a job that I loved and a position that I had, doing a good job, it was just unheard of, especially in my circle of family and friends. So that's why I take it as a personal attack against me and my integrity. I take it a personal attack against my family, who all stand in law enforcement and have done fine jobs. And just to let the men and women that I left behind, that I never got a chance to do one more roll call, to tell them what I thought of the men and women of EM, what a great group of officers they were, and what a good job they've always done in my behalf and in behalf of Cook County themselves. So with that, I'd like to say once again, thank all the parties involved, and let's bring justice to this matter.
Thank you, Ronald. Well stated. That concludes our comments here today. We look forward to bringing this suit forward and serving justice. And with that, we'll take any further questions that there are at this time.